Hey guys, it's Hink here. So was recently talking with one of my friends and he wanted to know kind of one of the most important things when it comes to overall penis health, even if we're not talking about an enlargement perspective, but just what can we do on a day-to-day basis, everything from supplements, exercises, breathing techniques that can help maximize our penis health right here as it is. And so that's what we're going to break down today. We're going to break down the best things for it, the worst things for it. And at the end, I'm going to give basically my routine for essentially what I do to maximize the health of your penis. So if that's something that interests you, then stay with me today. You don't want to miss this one. All right, guys. So number one, you all know what it is by now. It's going to be cardio. Now, there's plenty of papers like this. I don't need to put up a bunch of literature. Everybody knows that cardiovascular activity can lead to better erectile function. And conversely, if you have poor cardiovascular fitness health, it's going to lead to worse erectile function and things like erectile dysfunction, for example. So the number one thing that you all need to be doing is you need to incorporate cardio into your routine. Typically speaking, that incorporates about 150 minutes of basically moderate to light intensity cardio, or about 75 minutes per week of more intense or vigorous cardio. And here's the American Heart Association guidelines here so you can see what they recommend. But you would be shocked how many people have reached out to me and said, like, Hink, I recently started incorporating cardio into my routine and my erection quality has never been better. It's like, well, duh. But there you have it, guys. Number one, far and above, is going to be incorporating cardio activity. And these aren't in any necessarily particular order, but, maybe slightly more important when they're going to be at the beginning. So number two is going to be monitoring nocturnal erections. Now, guys, I don't want anybody to go overboard because some people call me in a panic and they say, well, I don't get nocturnal erections anymore. Does that mean my pee-pee is going to shrivel up and die like the Wicked Witch of the West, if you're old enough to remember Wizard of Oz? But guys, the importance of nocturnal erections, if you haven't seen my video on that, please check it out. I go into it in detail. The reason why nocturnal erections are so important is because they can be a general marker of your overall health and even cardiovascular activity and even hormonal levels. One tip would be to just try to be aware. Now, there's a lot of different things that can cause you to not have nocturnal erections that might necessarily be pathologic. So I don't want you freaking out if you don't get them. But in general, a marker of good penile health is if you have multiple nocturnal erections through the night. So guys, here's an excerpt here from the paper, and I'm going to read it to you. Adequate engorgement of the corpora cavernosa, which then leads to increased tissue oxygenation. This in turn prevents cavernous fibrosis, the histopathologic basis for corporal veno-occlusive disease, which probably accounts for most causes of organic erectile dysfunction. Basically, if you're not getting those nocturnal erections, you're not having that penis fill up with blood, you're not getting that chamber dilation, you're not getting oxygenation to that tissue, which can lead to long-term problems. So what can you do about this? Well, that's why I recommend either taking something like Viagra or Cialis. I just made a video on Viagra before bed and the benefits long-term that showed. But I've also had several videos, including my medication playlist and supplement playlist, about the benefits of something like citrulline before bed. So of course, for me, I take a scoop of Vigor directly before bed. Then I brush my teeth afterwards because of the malic acid. But that has dramatically helped to increase the frequency and honestly the rigidity of my nocturnal erections. So what else is important for penile health? Well, guys, diet. Diet is so important. There's so many facets of diet that can negatively contribute or positively contribute to penile health. So for example, if you eat a diet that's high in fat, high in cholesterol, high in especially animal fats, you are increasing your cholesterol and increasing the amount of lipids or fat in your bloodstream. That can lead to clogged arteries, which can lead to poor erection quality. So part of the reason of how shockwave therapy works is actually breaking up some of those plaques that are thought to develop in the penile tissue, leading to better blood flow. The other thing is diets that are high in things like salt and preservatives. So guys, high diet in salt can lead to things like high blood pressure. High blood pressure over time can chronically damage the arteries and vessels that are going to your penis, leading to worse erectile function, which is why it's so important. So that paper I just referenced a second ago, they recommended actually something like a Mediterranean diet, but I think a diet that is basically balanced with lean meats, green leafy vegetables, and especially fruits and vegetables that are high in nitric oxide, all of those things can help to boost your erectile health. So guys, another thing is pumping. Of course, you guys have probably seen my playlist on pumping, and I'm not talking about pumping for enlargement, which absolutely is possible, guys. If you don't believe me, just check out the other videos where I break down the real science behind it. But the fact of the matter is that especially if you're not getting erections that often, you're recovering from some sort of surgery, pelvic floor injury, and even just aging guys that don't have the same frequency of erections. So guys, a simple routine that's literally something as simple as a 5-minute set of pumping, a 2-minute break, another 5-minute set of pumping, somewhere between 6 to 8 inches of mercury. That's what countless published literature has shown to be the ideal range as far as penile rehabilitation. So if you haven't seen my video on like pumping pressures, please check that out. But that can actually do wonders for your erection health, especially those guys that are aging men. And of course, guys, if you need a pump, peakmalephysique.com. We sell high quality pumps there, but there's a lot of different places that you can get a pump. Just make sure it's a pump with a gauge so you actually know what pressure you're using. According to recommendations by national guidelines, you need to ideally be having somewhere between 7 to 9 hours of high quality uninterrupted sleep per night. I know for a lot of people that's just not that feasible, but that doesn't mean it's any less important. The reason for these is especially things like your testosterone surges occur at night, especially in those guys that are natural. Things like growth hormone release, other healthy growth factors and protective factors that your body needs, especially your penile health needs, is released at night and oftentimes during those deeper REM sleep sessions. It's also important for mood and honestly just critical for overall well-being, decreasing things like depression and anxiety risk. And so I can't stress enough how important good sleep is. Now, guys, this is a sleeper that a lot of people forget about: hydration. So if you are dehydrated, your body literally releases a substance, it's called angiotensin, that causes your blood vessel to constrict. Constriction is the opposite of penile health and good blood flow. You need your blood vessels to relax and fill with blood. The other thing, when you're dehydrated, your blood is thicker and also you have a decreased blood volume, so it's harder to actually get blood to your penis. So you need to be very hydrated. What I recommend, talk to your doctor. Personally, I like getting in somewhere between 1.5 to 2 liters of water per day. It's very important depending on your size. Talk to your doctor about it, but that'll get you hydrated, in my opinion. A good way to know if you're hydrated or not is basically if you're peeing relatively frequently, assuming you don't have something like prostate disease. And so I'd say at least every 2 hours. And when you do pee, it's either clear to a very light yellow. That's a very rudimentary thing. I know that some recommendations all over the board. And yes, guys, you can actually drink too much water, but in general, the better hydrated you are, the better. So guys, next we're going to talk about supplements. So just, keep in mind, guys, I sell supplements. So just take this with a grain of salt, okay? But it's based on my literature. Personally, I think if you're doing the other things on this list correctly, you don't need the supplements, okay? But some of you nonetheless are still going to be curious about what supplements are going to maximize that. Now, there is a crap ton of different supplements that have legitimate science basis that they can be beneficial for penile health. So personally, I'm picking out the ones that I think are most near and dear to specifically penile health, and I think have some of the best literature to support them. So number one is going to be citrulline, guys. Helps boost nitric oxide. It's going to help support blood flow. If you haven't seen my video on citrulline, check it out, or just check out my entire supplements and medications playlist. Next is going to be L-carnitine. Specifically, I like the formulation of acetyl L-carnitine. I have at least 2 videos on L-carnitine and the benefits with that. Horny goat weed, specifically the icarin that is associated with it, can have tremendous benefits as far as erection quality and overall penile health. So please check out my video on that. And probably red Panax ginseng is another one of my favorites. And so I just made a video on that, guys. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Now, shameless plug here. Of course, I've formulated these formulas by hand using real research to maximize the use of all of those ingredients. And last is going to be pelvic floor stretching, guys. It doesn't take much to keep your pelvic floor in a healthy state. So you want a pelvic floor that is going to be both flexible and strong. So I don't really believe in like reverse Kegels as much anymore, as far as like you just need to focus and make sure you're not just like clenching your pelvic floor all day long. But it's okay to do things like pelvic floor strengthening exercises, like different kinds of Kegel exercises, as long as you're stretching. And so as long as you have a routine that's either at least once a day, if not twice a day, of stretching out those pelvic floor muscles. And guys, I have different stretching routines, including like my Stop Doing Kegels video, where I actually break down like my pelvic floor routine. Of course, it's also available in my hard flaccid course, where I go through step by step, like hard flaccid and different pelvic floor health techniques in that as well, if you're interested. Link is in the description below. So this is going to be a lightning round. What are some things to avoid? Well, questionable is actually tight clothing. So here's a study here that actually demonstrates that tight clothing can be harmful, mostly as far as testicular health and like in actual semen quality. The data is a little bit conflicting, but in general, I don't think you want to be wearing tighty-whities all day long. Personally, I wear an underwear that has a nice little pouch for my junk, but still, keeps it secure. But I'm also not going to go so far as to be like, oh, every guy needs to be free balling all day long. So guys, nicotine, like I have a whole video on nicotine. But here are just some of the mechanisms by which smoking deteriorates your overall penile health. So it impairs the endothelial cells, so the actual lining of the blood vessels going to your penis. It decreases the amount of nitric oxide that's available. It increases oxidative stress, which is very harmful to different tissues all throughout your body. And it also contributes to atherosclerosis, or plaque of the and blockage of the different penile arteries. If you're interested in more of that, like, please see my video on why you need to avoid nicotine. And yes, that includes things like vaping and e-cigarettes. And yes, I'm here for the smoke keyboard warriors that think that it's okay. Do whatever makes you happy, but just from a health perspective, it's not. And, well, Andrew Huberman said on a podcast that nicotine can be very helpful as far as concentration.
Don't do the voice.
I get that, guys. I get that. But, once again, I don't think it's worth it. You make the best decisions for you guys. So here's a sneaky one. Using your hand to choke your own chicken, if you know what I mean. Guys, like, when I research hard flaccid, one of the most common causes, and I've seen it in different case reports too, but here's an excerpt here, aggressive can literally cause hard flaccid, okay? It can also cause things like death grip syndrome, where you're so used to pleasuring yourself with a tight fist that you're not able to actually climax in other situations. If you are going to do that, please use some sort of toy, fleshlight, Gluck Gluck 3000, but something that is not going to be your hand. So for you guys, I'm not going to argue with you guys in the comments on whether or not the induced erectile dysfunction is a real thing. I get it. The data is questionable. But what is not questionable to me is that there is a negative impact in your overall mental health and overall well-being by it, especially excessive consumption of it. Number one, it distorts and perverts your perception of things like your own size. You see these like guys that appear to be bigger than life because of the different lighting, camera angles, and just general very large peepees that are on there. So you feel worse about yourself. You also somehow internalize that, like, okay, all I need is a big old peepee and just like, and that's what a chick wants because that's what they see in the industry videos. And then I absolutely think there is negative implications when it comes to your dopamine pathway, whether or not the science has proven that as well. That's, call it my bias then, okay? But I just think that's something that your overall quality of life and well-being will begin to improve if you stop consuming. And guys, what's a Hink video without fat shaming? Obesity. Guys, here's a paper here which literally shows that obesity leads to having a smaller penis. So if we're talking about penile health, not to mention the association with things like hyperlipidemia or basically fat in your blood, hypercholesterol, high cholesterol, hypertension. So in the medical field, I call it diabesotension because like obesity is related to all those things. And guys, I don't care who you listen to. Well, Lizzo said you can be happy at any size when she was, that's absolutely, you cannot be healthy at any size. And there's a reason why we diagnose certain things. And I'm not talking about being a little bit overweight. I'm talking about being medically obese. And yes, I do think the BMI scale is accurate enough to give you an idea of what is obesity versus overweight versus a normal body weight. Also, guys, things like medications, so things like beta blockers, other types of high blood pressure medication, and especially things like antidepressants, SSRIs, all of those can F with your overall penile health and erectile function. Now, obviously, I'm not saying, oh, you need to stop your medications right now. No, that's not what I'm saying. But ideally, I think it would be best if you could, first of all, listen to your doctor, do whatever the F they tell you. But I do think a lot of these medications are overprescribed and are used as a Band-Aid rather than fixing the situation that's underlying, that's leading to some of these cases of depression or anxiety. You know, what is a Gen Z person without anxiety? I need a mental health day. What kind of is that? Anyways, guys, or ignore me. I'm just an old man yelling at the clouds. So guys, this is going to be the routine that I recommend in a nutshell. So in the morning, I think it's better to wake up ideally before 6 o'clock in the morning. For me, that's when I do my light pumping. If I'm doing it just for erection health, I would do 20 minutes of pumping, and I would do that immediately after taking a scoop of Vigor for my citrulline boost. As that is kicking in, I'm on my way to the gym. There at the gym, I do about 30 minutes of resistance training, followed by about 20 minutes of cardio. And I do that usually about 6 days a week, guys. I'm not gonna lie. And then on Sunday, I just do some light cardio by itself without the resistance training. After my workout, I have a post-workout protein shake. And then normally in the morning, I take the supplements Shield, Safeguard, and Fortitude with that protein shake. Okay, that's just how I do it. It doesn't necessarily have to be done that way. For a midday routine, when I can, I like to take 10 minutes before I eat and just basically try to meditate and clear my thoughts. It helps reduce things like stress and anxiety and depression. I typically have a salad. I try to limit like the heavy dressings, usually with some kind of lean meat on it, maybe like some turkey breast or chicken breast. And then I also usually have a protein shake at that point. Also, by about lunchtime, I have at least 1 liter of fluid in me already. For dinner, I like to have a largely cruciferous vegetable-based appetizer, if you will. So either a big salad or like a big thing of cabbage or kale or something like that that is going to fill me up, but is also going to be very low calories. Also, many of those high in nitric oxide. I then like to have a protein shake. Then after that, I like to relax my diet a little bit. So if I want some pizza, I'll maybe have a couple of pieces of pizza. Because I had a protein shake and a salad, I'm not like ravenously hungry. I don't like to be like super duper strict when it comes to that, especially I believe in enjoying life. So I relax on my dinner a little bit. Then I tend to go for a 15-minute walk after dinner, walking #watermelonboy. This is typically before bed. I do a 10-minute pelvic floor stretching routine. Not to sound corny, but I do like to reflect at night about all my blessings and basically what I'm grateful for. Then before bed, I take vigor and vitality. I like the vitality before bed to help boost my testosterone. Then I follow that with usually a sleep gummy. I try not to take it every night, but honestly, sometimes I have a hard time quieting my mind, and a sleep gummy helps me make sure I get some good sleep. And then I try to be asleep by 10 p.m. So guys, hopefully that was helpful. That's basically my routine. If you've made it this far, please take a second to like the video, and of course subscribe if you like my content. Let me know what you think. What did I get wrong? What did I miss? All the ways to support me, all the links to the supplements, the products, the pumps, all of that is in the description below. Remember guys, be the best version of yourself. There's nothing wrong with self-improvement, but you are enough just as you are. All right guys, peace and love.
Dr. Hink got the plug on the health, yeah. Got you thinking about your wealth, yeah. In his office, no stealth, yeah. Pinnacle of that below the belt, yeah. Checks and balance, he's managing. Working miracles, no damage. Got you covered, no panicking. Steady calm. In the clinic, no vanishing. Yeah, with Doc Hink, it's the way back.